Hello and welcome. The goal of this podcast is to get listeners connected with others in the sports industry because they say it's all about who you know, and now you know us. Hey, everybody. This is your host, Connor Shank, and today you're listening to the Constant Sports Podcast. The podcast is committed to connecting you with other sports professionals in the industry because they say it's all about who you know. And today, Jack Adler. Thanks for joining us today, Jack.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll dive in here a little bit. As we mentioned today, we're talking with Jack. He is the founder and CEO of Outdoor Wind Sports. He has a bunch of other sports experience with First Gaming, Syracuse Sports Business Conference, several other sectors within the sports space. And so today we're talking about kind of sports business groups, athlete representation, name, image, and likeness. I'm sure we'll dive into pretty deep, marketing, things of that nature. So just kind of to kick us off here, Jack, what does a typical day in the life look like for yourself?
Well, a day in the life for me is definitely different from, I guess, the typical workforce member because it's
Yep.
a startup. And as everyone says that's involved in a startup, every day is different. And I think that's what makes it the most fun. Because sometimes when I get into too specific of a routine, I get a little bored. So I think
Yep.
uh, the reason that I love what I do so much is because every day truly is different. What I will say is a lot of my responsibilities fall under uh, conversations with brands, conversations with athletes, and then just overseeing overall uh, operations within the company. And we're at a very early, young stage right now with Out to Win Sports. So a lot of what I'm doing right now is more so as the chief doer as
Yeah.
opposed to the chief delegator, which
Yep.
I assume I will be transitioning into relatively soon. So like right now, I'm almost acting as the head of brand partnerships, the head of
Right.
creative, the head of athlete relations, all of that before I eventually pass those roles down to other people that I can bring in to work under me.
Right. So we'll dive into that kind of a little bit in a little, but just want a little bit more background. So you were at Syracuse. Kind of what got you involved in sports? Have you always, been in the sports industry? Like was it, with your time with Verse Gaming or Max Management, was it something in there that kind of ignited that passion?
Oh, sports was ignited at a young age. I mean, I'm from Philadelphia. You see
Uh-huh.
behind, I'm a huge
Yep.
Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, Flyers fan, and I've been a sports fanatic since I can remember. And I think that passion, uh, I almost like nothing in my life have I ever had more passion for than an Eagles playoff game and an Eagles Super Bowl, obviously. Uh, and that passion is what I've been able to find in endeavors that I've built within sports. So it was really the first thing that I was able to find a similar passion for was in actual companies within the sports industry. So um, when I get that passion within me, I'm a hard guy to stop. So
Yeah.
I initially began getting involved in the sports industry. I loved how much fun I was having, uh, and knew that it was something that I wanted to be able to do for the rest of my life in order to chase fulfillment and happiness. So I graduated college just a couple months ago. So I always knew that sports was something I wanted to go into, and Out to
Mhm.
Win, I found it a couple of years ago, back in the end of 2021. So, um, I knew that it was something that if I could figure out the vision for it, that I wanted to take full time after school. And now I'm uh, thankful to be in a position where we're doing just that.
Yeah, perfect. And I was just curious for some of the listeners, they're kind of still in their undergraduate, I guess, journey career, you could say. So, kind of tell us what it was like when you're working with the Syracuse Sports Business Conference. I'm assuming a lot of schools, undergraduate schools, kind of have sports business, I don't know, clubs or associations. So, what impact did that conference itself have on your career and you kind of helping being the COO and things like that?
Yeah, I had a lot of opportunities to have conversations just like this one, where I was on the
Mhm.
other end of the spectrum and asking the questions that I was really, really interested and engaged in hearing the
Yeah.
answers for, because those are some of the pieces of advice that I took forward with me. I think, like, one, just from a learning aspect, of course, like the knowledge that I gained from these conversations, but two, the relationship aspect,
Yep.
people that still pop up in my life on a daily today, that I met on conversations like this, who became mentors, who became partners, who have, like I said, have popped up in all different aspects of my business. I think it really comes back to relationships that I was able to build at such an early stage through the Syracuse Sport Business Conference, because it pushed me to go network with people all throughout the industry.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. And I said it a few weeks ago. I think I was talking to my buddies and we were saying like the undergraduate, you're kind of doing your thing, whatever. But if you find a club, especially in sports where there's already, like say you're a freshman, sophomore, there's seniors that are, doing the thing, like pick their brain and there's already kind of an established practice in of itself. Like, all right, this is kind of how it works and you can learn more. And as you mentioned, it's all, just connecting, kind of building those relationships, especially at a young age is huge and influential. And so now I guess I've been holding in for the past 10 minutes, but I'm ready to dive in on Out to Win. So kind of tell us, it's it's a startup. You started in 2021, and now that's a crucial year. I'm sure you'll dive into why 2021 and what that has to do with kind of the name, image, and likeness space and marketing space. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, 100%. So I was working with Max Management entering 2021, and for some background on them, athlete marketing agency for professional athletes. So primarily NBA, NFL players. I had the chance to be involved in some collaborations with Tyreek Hill, De'Aaron Fox, cool athletes who obviously, as a big time sports fan, it was mind boggling to me that I had the opportunity to just touch a deal that they had involvement in. So name, image, and likeness legislation was passed midsummer as I was going through the motions of this internship, and I was learning and getting the knack of this whole brand partnership thing. And I realized that NIL was literally athlete marketing at a lower level.
Yeah.
So I remember so vividly, like going into work that day, July 1st or 2nd, right when the legislation was passed, and asking my boss, the founder of the company, so what's the difference between like what we're doing here and NIL, and how is it going to be implemented into this company? And his response was, I mean, it's kind of the same thing at a lower level. And for this company, it's just there isn't enough value in most of the college athletes to bring it into this business. We'll probably go after the top 1% of football, basketball players. And I have this entrepreneurial background. I worked on a couple of ventures in my past at this point, and a light bulb lit off for me where I was like, I'm a student at Syracuse, a big time sports school. I'm passing athletes on my way to class every day. Why not take a shot at turning this concept that instantly popped in my head into something?
Right.
So back at campus that fall, I instantly began just talking to athletes, hearing sort of what they were looking to get into within NIL, and no one had any idea what was even going on. They had no idea how to capitalize on the opportunity. We're talking like August, September of 2021, so still very new. And I began working with a few athletes at Syracuse, connecting them with brands, using this pitch that I did it over the summer. I can help do it here at Syracuse. And after a couple successful brand deals, more and more athletes came flocking my way saying, hey, I saw you from this, from that, would love to work with you as well. And I built a little, like without even trying to, I built a little agency.
Little Rolodex, yeah.
Brand partners who wanted more, athletes who wanted deals. And I was like, all right, this is actually becoming something. Let's run with it. So continued creating deals at Syracuse and came to this realization that so many of the deals that were happening that I was involved in and all around the country were very lame. It was a brand sending product to an athlete and they were posting a picture with the product, holding their thumbs up. And to me, as like a college student, the big demographic that so many of these brands were trying to reach through these deals, it wasn't capturing my attention. It wasn't engaging me. And I assumed that was the case with everyone else, especially from seeing the numbers behind some of these deals. So I decided to take more of a focus on the creative side of the deal. And I hired a production team. I hired a creative team, all students at Syracuse. And in partnership with these brands, we were actually building out the creative behind the deal so that we were putting out this engaging content that was actually going to capture attention. The first deal was a hot sauce partnership where we had two lacrosse players competing in a shootout. The loser had to try the hottest hot sauce. And that kind of like sparked just seeing the success of that piece of content, it sparked this momentum of of deals with creative concepts behind them that brands loved
Oh
and
yeah.
they were in return. Uh, so we do this at Syracuse for 6 months or so, and I turn around and say, "Wow, we built something pretty cool here. How can we scale it?" So began hiring students at other schools to do the same on their campus. So we were doing all this at Syracuse. We began expanding to Michigan, Southern California, Oklahoma, bringing in other students, uh, helping them build out production teams on their campus so we could actually run larger scale campaigns with companies and
Right.
say, all right, we're going to do this at Syracuse and at our other three campuses
Yeah.
as well. So worked on that for the last year or so until really getting to the point of realizing it's tough to
Yeah.
manage a team of college students at different campuses around the country. So kind of looked inwards and took a step back, started thinking about how we could continue building within the NIL space, and ended up really taking more of a focus behind athlete branding.
Hmm.
So much of what we were doing was like fishing for the athletes as opposed to teaching them how to
That's
fish,
fish.
create their
Yep.
own content. So we actually took a much larger focus on that, uh, building out a program called the NIL Accelerator, where different student athletes can learn from us through a program that teaches them how to build their personal brand, how to land
Yep.
NIL deals, really more educational focus that can propel them forward on their own. And we actually recently partnered up with Syracuse University for this coming fall to build that program out before hopefully expanding it to other campuses. So this fall, we're partnered up with Syracuse as their athlete branding partners. We'll be working with the 700 athletes at Syracuse who will have the opportunity to opt in to this program that we're building. And we're going to just continue building and using our knowledge to spread it to athletes across Syracuse to begin with, and then across the country.
Right. Yeah. 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 I'm looking forward to that, especially to kind of see the accelerator and what that can do for the athletes themselves. But kind of regarding the brands and the partnership, and as you mentioned, making it engaging. So, I mean, is that a lot of cold calls, cold emails to get like a Viore or a Timex or what have you? Like, or do you have to just know, like, you go on LinkedIn and search a company and then find their CMO, or kind of give us a look into that for the viewers that are interested.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of ways to do it, and none of them are necessarily easy.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of scrappiness. It takes a lot of grit because you get so many no's, and not a lot of
Mhm.
people can handle all those no's and keep going, because you're gonna send out 100 emails and messages and probably get one or two back if
Yeah.
even. And you have to know that going into it. But the biggest tool that I used and found successful as a college student was using that college student card and reaching out to alumni from my
Mm.
university at Syracuse. Really, really connected alumni base that love helping out current students. So I really started with that, connecting with Syracuse alumni, leveraging that student card to get
Mm.
conversations that I may not have gotten otherwise. And from there, it's a lot of from there, it started with a lot of prove it deals where we
Mm.
weren't necessarily going for the $1 million campaign. We were trying to get money to satisfy the athlete and enough money to cover our production budget
That's
to
yeah.
just be able to go make a piece of content that we knew was going to succeed and lead to further opportunities with that brand and others. So that's how it all started. And then once we began proving ourselves and our content creation abilities, uh, the deals started flowing because we had brands seeing our content elsewhere, coming to us, asking if they could get the same. So really through the first 6 months or so, it was prove it deals where we weren't making much of a profit off of it. We were really just going to show what we were capable of, and it paid off. And from there, we ended up getting deals with some other big time brands. We collaborated with Crocs. We collaborated with CeraVe recently, Oakley, Nerf. So a lot of different brands that we were able to get in contact with after some of these earlier stage partnerships with companies like Karma Sauce, Timex, Syracuse Clothing, even more local groups. But yeah, it definitely took a lot of scrappiness and
Yeah.
bootstrapping to begin.
No, yeah, for sure. And I think that's smart. I've never heard kind of that tactic where you're going specifically after the alumni base. Because we've seen whether it's like open doors or on on it or on three NIL, whatever that valuation
Yo,
thing is, like a lot of that money kind of from the collectives or the donors from like the local markets, the local restaurant, businesses, yada yada yada.
yo,
So then it only makes sense to then tie into the school base itself, the alumni network with all the entrepreneurs that come out of that or people that
exactly.
graduate, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
that's honestly where the hot spot is for NIL itself. And I just kind of want to get your opinion going forward, but where do you see kind of the NIL space going? I know there's a lot of talk with Congress and they're trying to get their sticky paws involved and all that stuff. So hopefully I'm not too biased by that comment, but where do you kind of see it going
it's a
forward?
mess. Yeah, it's a mess right now. And I think mostly because there hasn't been that national legislation set forth that can actually control
Yeah.
everyone as opposed to having the state by state that kind of just leaves it as a free for all. And my hope is that that unity comes soon because I
Hmm.
think without it, this space is going to be in trouble. Because we have a bunch of schools competing for championships in sports, but they're not on level playing fields when it
Right.
comes to what they can offer their athletes. So it doesn't make much sense to me in terms of fairness
Hmm.
for the overall sport. And I'm hoping that changes soon. In terms of just aside from that whole legal battle, which will probably go on for an
Yeah,
annoyingly long
forever.
amount of time, um, what we're really seeing on from the brand side is that athletes, if they want to cash in to their full potential and they're not the number 5 or higher
Right.
quarterback
Heisman Trophy winner or
there,
whatever.
the
Yeah.
way to do it is by focusing on brand building. It's by focusing on creating a content stream that can authentically incorporate a brand into it and move the needle for a company, because so many athletes have their hands out kind of expecting to have deals fall into their lap because
Yeah.
NIL is the thing. However, the reality, and it's not the athlete's fault, that's almost a precedence that was set. However, the reality is we're in year 3 now of NIL. Brands are only going to be spending money if they're seeing a return on their investment.
Yep.
And the way that a brand's going to see a return on their investment is if the athlete is posting a product that authentically resonates with who they are, what they believe in, what their audience has seen from them, and they're putting it in front of that audience in an authentic light, not necessarily an ad where you're holding it in front of them, but
Yeah.
you're just incorporating into the content style that you've been putting out consistently. So that's kind of the education that part piece that we're doing, is helping athletes build that consistent content stream and then help them leverage that into opportunities where they can actually help move the needle for a
Mhm.
brand and build out a longer term relationship.
Yeah. No, I love the business model and the structure there. I think it's brilliant and obviously it's working out well. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of like certifications and courses and whatnot. So I know that you can, I guess, touch on the accelerator as well, but I know you yourself kind of have certification from HubSpot and front office sports. So, I guess why'd you get those certifications? Are you going to get more? Just for the views out there that are looking to kind of add something up to the resume.
Yeah, I think I think that they're nice. They look nice on the LinkedIn profile.
Hmm.
I think it adds some nice credibility. I wouldn't say that there's any necessity for them.
Yeah.
Uh, I do think that they're nice to learn from, and in some cases the courses are like have brands sponsoring them where it's
Yeah.
almost like an ad for that brand.
Add revenue for the yeah, about the same thing.
And I've gone through a course and I've finished it in its entirety, but I've been thinking though my way through it, like, why am I doing this? But then again, there are courses that have been helpful, uh, and have just I think early on in NIL it was helpful to just like hear other people's perspectives on the space, but no one really knew what was going on. So there was no
Right.
course that could really teach you NIL. But yeah, I'm always looking to learn. So anytime that I can take part in a course, like, yeah, I'm sure that there will be others in the future that I complete in just search of learning something new.
Right, right. Yeah. And I think that's important as well to touch on is, always learning, always grabbing concepts, reading articles, kind of just
Yep.
gaining all that information is super vital for the space. And as you continue to do that, are you on kind of where do you get a lot of your data? I mean, like I know Open Doors releases a lot of their data for the NIL space. I'm sure you saw some of that. And how
Yeah.
do you collect your data? I'm sure you guys have some nest egg of data that you use.
Yeah, so I'm a big front office sports reader, big NIL newsstand reader, which is
Mm.
obviously newer just with the industry being newer, but they provide daily news updates on just what's trending within NIL.
Got it.
Uh and yeah, I think that's really the main I'm always reading the Open Doors reports that come out, but those are
Mhm.
really the main sources for me of news.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think those are all good spots, and I'm in that, I guess, like, circle of life as well. And I did think I found a few things interesting from the Open Door support and kind of how much money there were like saying is being spent around. And I'm not sure if you saw there was like a mini beef between Open Doors and I think it was an On3 evaluation. Like I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
it, but Open Doors was saying like the collectives have X amount, and then the other people were like, no, it doesn't. But I think that just goes to show like, everyone's gonna have their own opinion on like the industry and like, does anyone really know like the right answer? I don't think so, but like everyone thinks they know the right answer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just a little sketchy when a company is making a report on their data and saying, just showing how their numbers compare to everyone else's. Like, I want to see some other sources
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Because yeah, they were showing numbers how like Open Doors brand deals have seen the highest ROI compared to anyone else.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was hoping for a more, obviously it's tough to get one, but a more unbiased report on the
Right.
NIL landscape and not just Open Doors numbers.
Mhm.
But really, those reports are more so just used as marketing collateral for them.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
works. It seems to
No,
work.
yeah, no, it definitely works. And touching on that, I think, the space in of itself could use, I mean, it'd be hard, right? Because you need everyone's data on the NIL deals, but if there was some sort of like their first SPO track, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's like keeps all the NFL, NBA, everyone's contracts. You see, like there was a database where it's like, all right, these are kind of the average deals. I mean,
Yeah.
you could X out people's names. I'm sure there's some tech dude that could figure it out, but like just
Yeah.
to know, like put us over the target of what the industry looks like, what an average deal looks like. So it's not, companies saying like, this is what it looks like when,
I
you
completely
know,
agree. I think also to see data on ROI would be
right.
really intriguing. That's just tough numbers to get.
Yeah.
Even being involved in the deals, sometimes it's tough numbers to get
Mhm.
because the brands have their own access to sales generated. And
Yeah.
it's still though, like this is gonna be the year that NIL either rises or collapses on the brand side
Mhm.
because if brands aren't seeing their return on investment, the whole media value of the NIL buzzword is going to slowly start
Yeah.
the time's
Dipping.
ticking on that. So if brands aren't seeing the return on investment that they're looking for, they're not afraid to exit the space and
Yeah.
go spend that money on influencers that are posting that consistent content and making a living off of it.
Right. When I think, it's almost to the point where NIL is not, name, image, and likeness isn't the new shiny toy. Where at first, everyone was like dumping money at it, and they're like, okay, pump the brakes. Then, like you said,
Yep.
this year, everyone's kind of like, all right, let's
I mean,
regroup, see what's
it's
working.
all you can compare it to so many other industries. Like you
Yeah.
look at NFTs and crypto and kind of everything that's happening there. Every industry hits this like point where it's no longer the fad, it's no
Mhm.
longer the trending topic, and that's where you learn if something's really going to survive or not. And I think
Mhm.
this is the year for that within NIL.
Yeah, no, I agree. And as you and your team kind of move forward in the business space, are you, this might be a little bit too much behind the curtain, but are you guys sticking kind of in the NIL space? I know you have some college athletes, football players, individuals from Syracuse, and I think it was like Virginia Tech and Rhode Island and whatnot. But are you looking, just for like athlete marketing as well in the pro space in college, or kind of going forward? What's that look like for out the win?
Yeah, we're open-minded to what spaces we end up in. NIL is the focus for the time being, and
Mhm.
a lot of our clients end up moving up to the pro level, and those are
Of course.
relationships that we'll have forever. So
Mhm.
we still have helped a couple athletes with some brand deals up in that are playing at the higher level, and I assume that will continue happening. Uh, but even further than sports, like there's this creator economy that is trending in the right direction as it relates to just uh YouTubers and influencers,
Yeah.
even gaming. I mean, it's an industry. Influencer marketing as a whole is an industry that expect to only continue rising
Yeah.
and innovating, evolving, and it's an industry I want to be a part of. Uh, I love to keep my focus within the sports side of it because that's where my heart lies.
Yeah.
But it seems like the money is definitely over on the other side of it right now. So I've been exploring that industry for a while and just how we can tie it all together. And like I said, I really do see athletes entering into just that creator economy,
Your
being the best
personal
way
brand.
for an athlete to fully reach their potential when it comes to NIL.
Yeah, and then as we touched on a little bit, kind of, you might be saying fully reaching your potential. You mentioned kind of grit and determination to some things that you and the team have shown starting this startup here. But what are some other, I guess, personal skills, interpersonal skills that you've kind of developed or that you've noticed like, okay, I'm going to need this set of skills in order to be successful?
I think it's creativity because everyone's always going in the same direction. And that's because it's how we grew up in school. You're doing the same homework assignments as everyone. There's one answer to everything.
Yeah.
And I've always been one to kind of try and go a different direction and find a solution where no one else is looking. So I think in order to find success, especially as an entrepreneur, it takes creativity, it takes differentiation, and it takes going against the norm. So that's sort of been my motto and the way that I've been able to build a couple companies and work in a landscape that, at the time no one even thought to enter into. So I'm gonna keep doing it and see where it takes me, and hopefully we'll be able to come back here in several years and look and say I was doing the right things.
Yep.
But that's really my best answer, I think.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Loved it. And I think it's like, I don't know who said, I'm going to butcher it, so this isn't going to go over well, but like Wayne Gretzky, whoever, like said, like, go to where the puck's going to be. It's like that concept, right? You're always going to where, like, where the business or the sector's evolving to. You got to kind of try to be one step ahead of your opponents. And we've seen that with you and your brand here. So we just want to wrap up here in the next few minutes, but we appreciate you jumping on today and shedding some light on the industry and sharing your knowledge. So we'll turn the time over to you, kind of give you the floor. You can promote or plug anything you need to. Give anyone shout outs or do what you need to do. So we'll give you the floor here.
Cool, I appreciate it. I think the one thing I'll say is you're never too young to put yourself out there and chase the vision that you have, because too many times there's this social construct that you're a college kid, you're supposed to wait until you're graduated to go and chase that dream, put yourself out there. I'm 22 years old. I just graduated from college, and I'm chasing my dreams at 22 as opposed to waiting until you get that secure job. And at that point, you have the family, you have the responsibilities.
Right.
Is the best time made of. And I think it's my favorite piece of advice to give people in college that I'm talking to all the time. And I would love to give that to the viewers here. But other than that, definitely follow along with the Out to Win journey. Our Instagram is just Out to Win, spelled OUT, the number 2, and then WIN. Because we're not going anywhere anytime soon. We'll be a staple in the NIL industry for time to come. So definitely throw us a follow.
But yeah, we'll do. We'll share the tags and socials here and spread it out, and our viewers can follow along there. But like I said, we appreciate you jumping on here today, Jack. And thanks for your insights. And we're looking forward to see the success with Out to Win Sports and the other ventures and whatnot. And I was tell the guests I have on here kind of in the first 2 or 3 seasons, like, I'm looking forward to doing this again in a few years, season 7 or 8 of the podcast, and catching up and seeing where everyone's at.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to following the journey. And thanks again for joining us today.
100%. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks everyone for listening and watching. And this has been another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. And today you met Jack Adler. So we'll see you guys next time. And thanks again.